welcome to this episode of Sunny Silver Linings. This week we are joined by, well, if you don't know that smile, man, come on. Here in the MSP channel, not much bigger of a name, Mr. Gary Pica from TruMethods. Gary is the president of TruMethods, and he is a pioneer in the managed services field. He has built and sold 2 top-performing MSPs, and today Gary is president of TruMethods, a training, peer, and accountability firm aimed at helping IT solution providers reach their full potential as MSP and cloud providers. And of course, we have your host, the founder and CEO of IT by Design, and a man I am honored to call my friend, Mr. Sunny Kaila.
Thank you, Todd. And Gary, thank you so much for joining us. We respect you so much here because the way you do things in the channel, you give back to the channel, and there is just so much value that you're adding. And we always, when we talk to our clients, our partners, and it's just awesome to hear how they view TruMethods as a thought leadership institution, and your approach towards sharing their content, sharing their wisdom, and that comes from you being that MSP owner. That comes from you being more hands-on than anyone else out there in the channel who is an educator. So there's just so much respect, man, and thank you so much for joining us today.
No, I appreciate it, and it was great to have, one, to be able to come to your event, and then to be able to have you come to Schnitzfest, and both be able to kind of share what we're doing in our businesses and our cultures together. So I'm really happy to be here at a time when so much is changing we're going to talk about today. And so I've been on the mic a lot more than I have in the past, not just with my customers, but with the industry. So we'll talk about it today, why I'm spending so much more time on it today.
So Gary, what's your advice to our MSP partners, our clients, our peers, our partners, what they need to focus on today so they are ready for their future?
Great. So in the content to my customer base and in the industry, I've been talking about 3 things, protecting your business, looking beyond, looking for opportunities, and thriving. And today what I want to do is really kind of highlight 3 of those things that I think are most important. So I'm going to talk about how to build more value with customers and prospects. We'll talk about some security pivots and some things around profitability that are different in a changing economy. So I wanted to kind of, I could talk about 10 different things, but I said, what are the 3 things if I only had to choose 3? And Sunny, one of the things is when there's a lot of change, there's always more risk and opportunity. And because of COVID-19, technology has changed in a short amount of time, right? All of our customers are doing business a little differently, and we're in a different economic cycle, right, than we were compared to the last 11 years. And so that means the needs of SMBs are changing. What they need is changing. And this is, whenever that happens for IT providers, and I've owned MSPs, for 20 years through downturns, it means that they rely more on technology, right? They rely on it more. So from a customer standpoint, those VCIO services, that relationship, building higher level strategic relationships, are really important. Similar to what, I watch what you do, and you're moving your company in the same direction, right? You're moving closer to your employees, and you're moving closer, right, to your customers. So you kind of see the same thing, right, in your business?
Absolutely. And we, with this COVID starting in March, so starting with our Coffee with the Community internally, where we bring our team together 7:45 a.m. every day. We just have a cup of coffee every day. So culturally, we are much stronger. From client engagement perspective, being there as a resource, that was our focus. So we found opportunities like doing a wellness program for our partners and having their teams join, or just finding opportunities to be close to them. And that's what we have been doing as well at IT by Design.
So if you think about it this way, as I've watched, the industry go through this, and I've also watched my customers, and I get to work closely with about 100 of them that are in our peer community. But I see a big distinction. Those that came into this situation where they already had really high level strategic relationships, right, developed with customers. They meet with decision makers. They know a lot about how every business does business. And they're part of the strategic planning process with all their customers. They're already seeing the opportunities as they navigate through this. And those that really weren't at that relationship, they help their customers, they do a good job, but maybe they don't deal with the owner or C-level, they deal with somebody else who deals with IT. We're telling them, this is your opportunity to make that jump, because every one of your customers is changing their business plan for 2020 and 2021. With that, they need to understand first off, you need to understand where their business is and where they're changing it, and you need to change their technology plan. So there's this rare opportunity, and they all want to talk to us right now. So if you weren't comfortable, maybe some people are more technical, they're not as comfortable with those business conversations. Sonny, they're so easy to have right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then think about transitioning that to prospects. It's the same exact thing. You can open up conversations and build value with prospects right now in a way that we couldn't 4 months ago. So in both scenarios, you have to be thinking about, how do I put attention, systems, priorities to be able to build these strategic relationships with prospects and customers? And there's a window to do that, and we're in that window right now. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So, when you look at entrepreneurs, they thrive when there is that challenge, there is a risk. And if you can figure things out in terms of taking calculated risk, and you take that challenge and turn that into an opportunity, that's what entrepreneurship is all about. And now there's just so many problems out there to solve. And one way we are looking at, from IT by Design's master MSP perspective, we are not talking to just MSP and their challenges and how we can help them, how we can be a resource for them. The conversations that we are having with them is what their customer, how their customer is changing, how customers' end customer is changing, and what their strategic planning needs to, how their strategic plan needs to change to serve their end customer better. So we are having conversations with MSPs in terms of their end customer. And when you look at any kind of planning, there is nothing better than my IT process. So as you know, we need our system, we need a framework, and then we need people. And when we talk to internally here as well with our own MSP, we use that framework. And that's the strategic planning, IT roadmap, TruMethod, is well-known process, well-known framework that we are using, and that's what we are also advising our partners, that hey, here is something that can help you have those conversations with your end customers.
Yeah, in a repeatable way. And that's what's different, okay? I think a lot of IT providers, hey, their customers trust them or they wouldn't pay them. But if you don't have a process and a way of measuring results, like for example, one of the things that we look at, that we measure right in our framework, is for every dollar of MRR, how much non-recurring service do you generate? And we want to see that be at least 25%. So if you have 100,000 of recurring revenue per month, you should be generating at least $25,000 a month of non-recurring services. If you're not, it means your customers aren't taking your recommendations, and that usually means you haven't learned enough about their business to present those recommendations in a way that they see them as investments that will either help them with their business plan or reduce their risk, which kind of leads to the second point, which is a pivot around security. Threats around MSPs and SMBs have been building for a few years now, right? We've seen it building. You've read all the reports about the breaches. but it has accelerated. I'm part of a weekly industry security podcast called the Cyber Call, and we're seeing the quality and the quantity of these breaches. And when you think about the fact that we moved everybody work from home, now some people are coming back, it's hybrid, there's some long-term way it's going to end up that's different than the topology. So now the topology of every customer has changed, and if you haven't changed your process or your tool stack, you and your customers have more risk. And the hard part about this, Sonny, is, we see a lot of people worried and trying to figure out whether they should lower their cost to their customers right now because of what's going on with COVID and the economy. We're training our peer members right now to go out and increase prices, right? To be able to say to customers, like, listen, and they're doing it successfully, say, listen, we're dealing on your behalf with risks that we weren't dealing with even 4 months ago. Here's how we've changed our process. Here's how some things we've done with our tool stack. And for you, you spend $3,000 a month with us now, it's going to be $300 to $400. We can't really make it an option because we both can't live with this risk. And they're having great success. And when you think about a customer really that spends $3,000 with an MSP, they probably have $300,000 or $400,000 of expenses. So another $300-400 is nothing. And if you can think about it in that way, it's kind of counterintuitive. Like when I first say it, people say, well, the last thing I want to do now is go to raise anybody's prices. And I'm like, no, the last thing you want to do is have customers have additional risk right now, and you're not sharing with them and dealing with it for them. That's more of an issue. Once you explain it to them, a couple $100 is meaningless, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a very, very important issue right now because a lot of your employees, or our MSP partners, customers' employees as well, they're working from home. So now you have a lot more entry points. And now you do this weekly call, what's this called?
Cyber call. It's called the Cyber Call.
Yeah. And it's very successful. And can you talk to us a little bit more about security? And if there's one thing, so I know there's so much to do in this more complex environment, but if there's one thing our MSP partners must be looking at today to help their customers' strategic plan in terms of security, what is that?
I'll tell you, the first piece of advice I would say is, take care of get your own house in order first. You should be the best, most secure customer that you have. And when you start to do that, including like working with a third party, like a SOC or a SOC or a SIEM, master, kind of an MSSP, you should have a relationship. And when you see how much process and work it takes to fully secure you and you go through that process, then you'll start to see the gaps between where you are and where your customers are. But the hard part, let me tell you, think about it this way. If I am a company with 1,000 employees, depending upon what industry I'm in, how regulated or not it is, how sensitive my data is, I have anywhere from 3 to 7 people just in security, okay? If I'm an MSP managing 1,000 seats, how many people do I have in security? 0. That's why you're seeing these attacks, right? Because MSPs are more vulnerable. And here's the reason why. If I'm an IT director, I just go to my board and said, listen, we're dealing with some additional issues. I need these tools. I need another resource. You go and get budget. If I'm an MSP, I have to figure out how to operationally what I need to do with labor and tools across 40 customers. Then I have to know my cost structure so that I know what my margins need to be, and then I need to go to every customer and have that value conversation. That's a lot of work, Sonny, and a lot of that are things, unfortunately, that MSPs historically are not really that good at. So it's not as simply as knowing how to secure people. You have to know how to get paid for it so that you can afford to have those resources to do it, right?
Absolutely. And that's a great point. You got to be part of something which is a special group or think tank. And I know Chris, we interact a lot with Chris, and I think he's with you in that group as well. Yeah. And we surround ourselves with people where they have their subject matter expertise in that area, and other strategic partners. It's one of those things where MSPs need to be so ready because from ransomware to everything else, MSPs are the target. And in this new world, your exposure is a lot more and it changed overnight. And if you are not paying attention here, if this is not one of your smart rock, it needs to be one of your smart rocks to
Yep.
really even not only survive, I mean thrive, but survive as well, because otherwise your business is at risk.
Yeah, and so let me tie it together with the third point, which is profitability. Okay. Look, you can't innovate if you're not profitable. You can't enhance the time you're spending on that VCIO strategic process that every customer needs more of and will need more of for the next 2 to 3 years. You can't secure them if you can't afford to, right? And so understanding how your costs are changing, right? And we use like a per seat model to do it. And then how to tie that to your value proposition. You can't, I call 10% net profit after owner salary the new break even. For 11 years in an expanding market, it was really easy without a lot of discipline to grow an MSP and throw 10 or 12 points to the bottom line. It's not going to be that way moving forward. So you need to think about, I know the relationship needs to change. I know we need to focus on security. I need to have more command now over my cost drivers and look at efficiencies, including they'll look at things like working with IT by design, where they may not have needed to do that or care about squeezing out, an extra $4 per seat, on some of the labor components. But now that $4 a seat is massive to invest it in either VCIO or security. So now maybe they'll come to you, Sonny, and say, listen, I want to think, and I learned that I can do more remotely. I can think about things in a different way. They're going to look and say, wait a minute, I'm spending $8 a seat on backup. I need to be spending, $4 on that. So hopefully it means the people that see this are going to actually run better businesses that they didn't have to when the rising tide was floating all ships.
Absolutely, absolutely. And now we always, as you know, we have our own MSP as well in New York City, and we always believed in your formula. And growth without profitability is not a good idea. And if you want to have growth with profitability, then you have to have some kind of formula, and your formula works. It's a proven formula, and I encourage all my partners, all my peers to look at that formula. It's so simple. What Gary did, because a lot of times you go to these peer groups and you look at all these benchmarking numbers, it's a huge list, and people like me, where we have technology background, and I call myself an incidental entrepreneur.
Right.
A lot of MSP owners are incidental entrepreneurs, and it's very hard to look at these balance sheets and everything else. And Gary simplified everything for us, and he has a very simple formula. And talking about innovation, your third point with profitability and profitability margins, and with innovation in this new world, Gary, I remember one thing with MSP to master MSP transition that happened during tough time. And that was 2008, 2007, 2008 for us.
Yep.
When that economic downturn happened, it challenged me that how I'm going to have my profitability in this type of economic climate. And that challenged me. I have never been to India before that, after moving here. And then I'm like, that's one thing I should do. I should go back and do some feasibility to see if I can look at a few resources there. So the idea was to create our own NOC, because there was no NOC out there which was quality NOC where we could put our name on the line, especially with hedge funds in New York City where their tolerance level to down so low.
Absolutely.
And we created, so that innovation, being our own NOC and then helping other partners with the NOC, and that became our new product, which is the most successful product so far we have, that transpired out of that tough time. And now when I reflect on that, I'm like, this is the opportunity. This is going to challenge entrepreneurs. So if you are an MSP owner, you are an entrepreneur. You are an entrepreneur because you thrive during these type of situations. All you have to do is set aside some focus time, some deep work time to work on innovation, to see what problems I can solve for my end customer, where that is the need of the hour or that is the need of the new norm.
So I'll close on this. I met with my peer groups, some of my peer groups yesterday, and what I told them, my message to them is this. I've been around this business for 25 years. I built 2 MSPs. I've worked with thousands. Right now, this is what we've been waiting for. The set of circumstances because of COVID and the economy and all the changes, have exposed some of the MSP model, that it's not as proactive as some people say, and these companies that are unprofitable. This is the opportunity we're waiting for. If you are an MSP operator and you can, focus on the things we talked about today, set priorities, and every quarter execute on them, you will put distance between you and your competitors in a way that you didn't have the opportunity to do when the market was just going up in one direction for the past 10 or 11 years. So I want everybody, there's a lot more risk, and I want to identify that, but I really want to get people focused on the opportunity, and you don't want to miss it. I think we have a window of about 24 months. It's the best opportunity to make changes and grow your MSP.
Absolutely, absolutely. And those are 3 awesome points, great points. Thank you so much, Gary, and thank you so much for being a part of this episode today. And keep doing that good work, man. And thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Gary. Thank you, Sonny. And Gary, I don't know. I think I got to put on the sniz glasses to do this closeout this week. So
a little bit of sniz fest.
Hey,
Let's do that.
So thank you, Gary. Thank you, Sonny. And to all the viewers, thank you. We hope you take away a nugget or 2. And if you did, please honor us with a like, a subscribe, a share. We do appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next episode.
And Todd, how do we do it? Okay, there you go.
It is.
This way?
That way. There it is.
There you go.
Bye, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.